Today we're going to answer an email question about jealousy, favoritism, and even kids involving a poly relationship. And also, whether you're poly or not, these sorts of things are very interesting to talk about when it comes to relationships, so I'm sure you'll find some interesting tidbits in this episode. All right, our question today is, with separate partners, you get all sorts of problems from favoritism and jealousy to family issues like having kids or wanting kids. How do you deal with that? All right, so first I have to call out the opinion and the assumptions that were kind of like inserted in there. Just because you have multiple partners doesn't mean that there are problems. It doesn't automatically mean favoritism, jealousy, and family issues, right? This may be things that you have to work on to get to a solid relationship, but you can be in a relationship without favoritism, without jealousy, and without family issues. Again, I want to stress that your opinion is valid for you and your emotions are valid for you, but please don't project them onto us. So I'm just going to assume that you didn't mean anything by that and you didn't mean to just insert your opinion as if it was fact. So getting to the meat of the question. Jealousy is a very human thing. It's something that we're all going to experience and we're all going to struggle with at times. Excessive jealousy, excessive favoritism, things like that, those are going to signal an unhealthy relationship or a toxic relationship. And I highly recommend, whether you're monogamous or poly, to get out of a relationship like that. If you are feeling constant jealousy, it may be true or it may be you. Either way, one of you is toxic, or maybe both. So get out. If you're feeling favoritism, again, something's up, especially if it's all the time. If it's an unhealthy relationship, get out. I also highly recommend looking for those red flags early and not getting into a relationship like that. That is one of the keys. Like, for example, I mentioned in a previous video that I strive to have friendships that last forever and not cross lines into physical stuff or intimacy stuff if it's going to ruin a relationship. One of the ways I do that now is I spot people who are drama. I spot the toxicity early, and I don't let a relationship go any further the moment I realize it exists. I do not try to change them. In the past I did, and it led to some crazy, stupid situations. It's not good to try and change people. If you love people, love them how they are, and keep them at the correct distance and the correct level of intimacy. So, wrapping all that up, if you are in an unhealthy relationship because you're always jealous or there's always some kind of favoritism going on, get out. And don't wait. The longer you wait, the worse it's going to get, both on you, on them, on the breakup, on the repercussion and the fallout. Don't wait. When you realize you're in a toxic relationship, get out. I've definitely made the mistake before of sticking around way longer than I should have because I believed in the other person and I believed in us and I thought we would get better. But in hindsight, we never got better. And in reality, it just spiraled more and more out of control and we ended up really actually being in a horrible spot in the end and hurting each other a lot in ways that were not recoverable. So I highly recommend, if you're in a relationship that's unhealthy or any way toxic, monogamous or poly, get out as fast as you can so you can save what's left of the relationship. You know what? While I'm talking about that, I want to share something with you. So I have these 5 ways to not be used. This is from no source at all, so I'm sorry if you created this and I can't source you. 5 ways to not be used. Number 1, believe patterns, not apologies. And I'm going to say right up front, I have screwed up every single one of these 5. Believe patterns, not apologies. Number 2, don't fall in love with potential. I am so good at that. I see someone, I see all the good in them, and I completely look past the things that are kind of red flags. Which leads to number 3, believe all red flags. Number 4, know your worth. Know what you do and don't deserve and how you should and should not be treated. Know your boundaries. If you have to, write them down. Get away, go to a park or something like that. Write down your boundaries. That way you can enforce them. Number 5, don't lower your standards. Once you've figured out what your boundaries actually are, stick to them. Don't lower them because you love the other person. I am really good at doing that, and it leads to horrible places. Don't lower your standards. I'm going to read the question to you again. With separate partners, you get all sorts of problems from favoritism and jealousy to family issues, like if you have kids or if you want kids. How do you deal with it? So I also want to call out another piece of this. How do you deal with it? So I'm going to recommend you don't ever deal with people. Love them. Love people. That's the difference. When you deal with people, it's a problem, and you're dealing with the problem, and you want the problem to go away. When you love people, you want to hear about everything they're experiencing and how it can be improved, and how you can be there for them and love them the way they need to be loved. So don't deal with people, especially not in your relationships. Love people. And I just want to clearly call out, love is a verb. It's something you do. Love them. So regarding jealousy in a relationship, monogamous or poly, assuming that it's not a chronic thing and it's not an unhealthy relationship or a toxic person, either them or you, I would say love them. So I would embrace them, and I would want to know everything about whatever it is that's making them feel jealous. Also, if I was feeling jealous, I would want someone to love me and embrace me and tell me all the things that they're going to be here for when I ask. So if somebody is jealous, love them, get them talking about it, and find out what needs are not being met. A lot of times you don't realize something is not being met until suddenly you're jealous. Then I would love them and do whatever I could to make them feel loved and to figure out whatever they need to have their needs met. Once it's all out in the open, it's a lot easier to find a way to meet everyone's needs. If for some reason everyone's needs can't be met, then perhaps you need to have a different conversation about whether or not you're a match. Regarding favoritism, that's kind of a form of jealousy. So, unless it's rampant and on purpose, accidental favoritism is often just jealousy kind of like personifying itself as favoritism. So talk about it the same way you would talk about jealousy. But while we're talking about favoritism, do yourself a favor and don't get yourself between your partners, and don't let your partners put you in the middle. That's just a recipe for disaster. Every connection in your relationship is a connection between two people. And two people are responsible for the connection and the communication between each other. So don't get involved with other people's communication streams or their connection. Let them sort it out between each other like adults. If for any reason your metas can't sort things out like adults, then you might be in the wrong relationships. And I want to make it clear, metas do not have to be friends. They don't. They don't even have to know each other, but they do have to act like adults and have some form of respect for each other and for you. So if they start acting like children, you might be in the wrong relationship. It's not your job to get them to communicate well. It's their job. You're there to promote, you're there to encourage, but you're not there to get in between them or make their communication work. If they're not communicating like adults, take a step back. Ask yourself, are you really in the right relationships? Also, take a look at yourself. Are you somehow causing this? Are you the one who's toxic? And that's a hard thing to admit, but are your actions creating this tension that is turning into favoritism in their eyes? It might be you. Start there. Don't start with finger pointing. If you're having a problem with a meta, consider that it might be you first and ask, okay, well, if I took ultimate responsibility for everything involved in this and the communication, what did I contribute? And if you've got two metas that are unhappy, again, take a moment to consider, what if it's you? What if you're contributing something that is creating the tension between the two and you don't even realize it? Or worse, what if you might be a little bit toxic? What if you might have some unhealthy habits and you don't even realize it? It's totally possible that you're in a relationship or two where somebody has drama and you're allowing it, or you're the cause. So don't ever underestimate that possibility. Finally, kids. So I'm just going to be upfront and admit that I don't have kids and I don't want kids. So all of my poly relationships take that into account. I can share a little bit about other people I see who have kids. And the short version is, it's just another thing you need to talk about. Just get it out in the open and talk. What is it you're looking for from your relationship if you have kids, or your partner has kids, or your partner's partner has kids? Where are you going with it? What kind of future do you want? What kind of future do you want to build together? And keep in mind, once you start talking about that sort of stuff with people, you could end up building a dynamic that you never even dreamed was possible. You could wake up to a life that was better than you ever dreamed. So getting back to your question, with separate partners, you get all sorts of problems from favoritism and jealousy to family issues like having or wanting kids. How do you deal with that? The short answer is, don't deal with it. Love people. Get things out in the open, listen, communicate, and give the people you love what they need. So more on jealousy, and actually why it's my favorite emotion, check out my video up here. So what was your biggest takeaway from this episode? I'd love to hear your comments and your feedback. Drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can also email me at ask@kinkypolyatheist.com. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.